at University of Malta, and is also a visiting lecturer at the St. Martin's Institute of IT, University of London. Dr. Michael is also a clinical psychologist and family therapist as profession. He contributed with psychological services to Kana movement, Apodge, and the MEG movement. So you can see how vast his experience is. Dr. Galea studied at University of Loyola in the USA, where he read for a master's in pastoral psychology. He then proceeded to do his doctorate in psychology in the same university. His dissertation was on complex impact of childhood trauma among Maltese students. Very interesting subject. Dr. Galea has worked in London in the UK, in Baltimore, and in Venter City in the USA. Dr. Galea also contributes a lot to disseminate good mental practices. He shows up in TV shows like Shanti and F Living Show TV program. And I totally recommend that you also check Dr. Galea's YouTube channel called Psychology Minute with Michael Galea, where Dr. Galea presents very short, insightful videos about mental health. Thank you so much for accepting to make this presentation, Michael. I'm going to pass the floor to you so you can start your presentation.
Thank you, Jose, and thank you for that welcome as well, and greetings, everyone. Today we are going to talk of all topics. What else? What better is it? COVID-19, but also about mental health. I come from the Department of Mental Health, and I'm a psychologist by profession, and that is the area that I can contribute a little bit on that. So, the starting point that very often we need to start investigating is the fact that our life has changed. Our life has changed in more ways than one. Exploring a new me is unsettling. The world around us can change in a second, and letting go is very often painful. Although danger seems to lurk beyond my front door, my home still seems and feels like a sanctuary. People have told me when isolating isn't by choice and is to avoid a deadly disease, panic-inducing thoughts are hard to escape from. A lady recently told me old coping mechanisms, like, for example, believing that there is light at the end of the tunnel, stopped working. Number one, because this pandemic has not been like a blow, a shock that happened yesterday and now it's over with. And so I can start to deal, to adjust, to accept, to fight and move on. But the pandemic is still going on. And the fact that it is still going on, and the fact that not just going on, but still we are learning new things. It causes a lot of trouble. It causes a lot of issues. For example, I normally inundate my students by telling them this sentence ad nauseam. We are creatures of habit. So from my home to university, from my home to my work of place, of work, all right, my car can almost drive by itself. Why? Because normally that's the way I take. That's the route I take. We are creatures of habit. If you go to church, normally you sit in the same place, in the same side, and you go for the same service. If you go to a supermarket or store, normally you buy the same products. Only once in a while you try to change. But very often we try to adjust. We try to, there is routine. We love structure. So when we are faced with such a pandemic, which of course is hopefully, we won't witness anything like this, it is something that, of course, disturbs all our balance or our peace. Therefore, the past coping mechanisms will not work, or somehow will be found to fail. Why? Because this is totally new grounds for us. It's unpredictable grounds. So for many, mornings are particularly hard because, of course, the first thought that arises is, what is this day going to bring to us? Okay, what new challenge am I going to be faced? So here we are talking about two critical things. One is COVID, the pandemic, but then there is our mental health. And our mental health is as important as our physical health. We cannot see the human person unless as a whole. So I cannot cater for my physical Michael unless also I take care of the emotional Michael. And if spirituality is important, then also that needs to be factored in. If my work is important, and I'm sure it is for most of us, yes, that also needs to be factored in. You see, we cannot fragment, we cannot see an individual separately. This webinar series is for individuals who very often are in this discipline of radiography. And in your work, you very often come face to face with individuals who have been diagnosed with terminal illness or things like that. So issues of life and death are very often close to you. In this reality, you know by experience that you cannot just cater for the medical part only, but individuals are a whole. So they are going to look at their diagnosis, they are going to look at your feedback as radiographers from different aspects. And all those aspects need to be included, factored in order to respect the full human person, the dignity of the human person that we have in front of us. So there are a number of questions that this pandemic is presenting to us, and very often more questions than answers. And that is another situation to try to live your life and accept questions rather than answers. We very often, I believe you agree with me, that our ideas are that we try to get more answers. But reality, experience, our life has shown us that life is more about questions and about adjusting and sometimes living with those questions rather than having answers. And for anybody who thinks that life is like an answering machine is totally wrong. Our life depicts otherwise. So in front of this, what is the situation at present? And I wish to cite some statistics which are in the public domain by Richmond Foundation, which is a foundation here in Malta for mental health, and it offers a huge number of services for the young, for the elderly, very often free of charge. And you can find it even on their website. So they started doing this research, and they are producing these statistics, which are truly minefield of information about the COVID reality here in Malta. And there so far has been 4 points of studies, 4 points of data gathering. One was in April this year, where there were a sample of 1,064, July, August, and now in October, which has seen the highest number. Now, normally, the participants are also the individuals who seek help through Richmond. Now, along this continuum of 6 months, some very interesting data has been elicited. Number one, COVID is increasingly seen as a bigger threat as time proceeds, as time moves on, irrespective of the fact that last week and this week we have had the vaccine breakthrough, blah, 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 which hopefully, let's hope, they will be with us sooner rather than later. But still, the fear about COVID is still seen as a bigger threat as time moves on. Number two, the management here locally in Malta of the health situation, according to the perception of the participants, of course, seems to be getting more laxed over time. And this has to do a lot with what I just said. We are creatures of habit. Okay? We take things for granted, and this is seen everywhere. All right? Speak of the United States, where you have politics and a whole confusion. But speak also in Europe. Speak of Italy, for example, where you had, we all still remember those shocking images in Bergamo of those trucks lining up, and they couldn't even cater for the victims, poor victims. And still, the numbers have the new wave or the tsunami, or call it what you like, has come again. So you start thinking, what's going on here? Why? One reason may be, of course, this is my opinion, we are creatures of habit. We get used to the situation. We somehow sometimes turn a blind eye, or we take things for granted, thinking that, listen, one of the assumptions we adhere to in psychology is we know that death does exist. But the assumption is, I believe it's not going to touch my skin, not now. Okay, it will touch my skin, but not now. Right now, I'm having fun. Right now, I have plans. Right now, I'm writing a paper. So, not now. These are assumptions. And we always say how to spell assume, making an ass out of you and me. And these things, definitely, one shouldn't assume. Let's continue with the data from Richmond Foundation. Number 3, we are looking at an increase in meditations, in video calls to family and friends, particularly those who have been under lockdown in April, most importantly. So there is a higher need to connect, Why? Because one, we are faced with existential issues, life and death. And therefore, whom to turn to when you are with your back to the wall. Fourth, we are looking at a decrease in healthy eating, which shows that people are becoming more nervous, impatient. Also, a decrease in physical exercise routine, and, for example, making own bed. So there are repercussions, one on the horizontal domain, meaning me and you, me and my significant other, me and my family, my friends, whoever. On the other hand, there is somehow a decrease, a negative, a deficit where taking care of the me, of myself. And we shall look at this later on with regards to recommendations. So where are we here? One of our basic human assumptions is a sense of control. But COVID is presenting the fear of the unknown, which is one of the worst situation and experiences that human beings can go through. Okay? Not just a loss of identity, but more even deeper, the question of where am I going to end up? Am I going to exist or not? In this scenario, anxiety becomes contagious. I go out, I see people wearing masks. I switch on the news and I hear news, bad news, difficult news. What happens? I somehow identify with that, and fear becomes a contagious, vicious cycle. So I pick it up from those around me and I revert it back to them. So the real danger is still here. COVID remains what it has always been. In fact, I believe now we know about it much more than before, and we realize more its seriousness. Time passes. Medical developments should never make us complacent, as some may already have started feeling that, finally we have the vaccine, as if the vaccine is here, which is not the case. So incorporating new healthy habits, if we haven't yet done or started any, does indeed help. How to manage the mental health impact of COVID? I believe there are two components also emanating, highlighted by the recent statistics here in Malta from Richmond Foundation. One is the intrapersonal attention. I need to take care of the me. We have seen that attention about myself has gone down. On the other hand, obviously, we need to take care of the interpersonal attention, meaning the me and you, me and my world, because this is also a key component of what makes me mentally healthy. So let's start with the intrapersonal. How can I take care of the me? And I wish to look at structure, at being cognitively active, and also physically active. Let's see them one by one. Loss of structure and routine is already identified as a major mental health issue for all, but especially to vulnerable populations. During this pandemic, issues of routine are bound to worsen. If you are moving to being self-isolated, perhaps you have tested positive or you are in quarantine, to protect yourself from infection or to protect yourself from giving infection to others, then it's crucial to establish a new routine as fast as possible. And where to start? I suggest do a weekly planner. Ensure a routine about bed and waking time, meal times, work activity, even though if work to the man outside, to the woman outside, may mean stupid or banal, your ideas of work activity. Why? Because you are restricted, you are at home. But do whatever works to you. So if for you, work activity may mean doing some exercise inside your bedroom, then do it, okay? Do what works. Online times, there should be a time to go online, a time to go offline. Always trying to find exactly when you need to eat and how to eat in a healthy manner. This is an example of a template. You can be more, of course, creative in doing hour by hour, but normally this is what I also share with my clients, my service users, when they have issues of depression, for example. a way how to normalize, how to find a routine, and how to find to be creative. Okay, more on structure and routine. Security is the first step to ensure mental peace and quality of life. First things first. Ensure the adequate three-pronged precautionary measures as highlighted by the World Health Organization COVID-19 situation report, meaning social distance, hand and respiratory hygiene. One sure sign of potential presence of COVID-19, was reading this last week, is the loss of taste and smell. So if you have that sign, go and swap. All right, more on structure and routine. Beware of alcohol use. We all know that alcohol is a significant problem whenever most of us are under stress. Now, the use of alcohol significantly contributes to mental health problems, not to mention family, relationship problems as well. Social media. News can be overwhelming. Setting a time limit can reduce anxiety. Number two, we are talking about how to cater, how to be more positive to myself. Okay, first we saw routine and structure. Now we are going to see being cognitively active. So cognitive exercises are very beneficial. We know that even research shows that people for dementia, for the elderly, are exceptionally beneficial, but not just to them, but also to us. These may include board games, word games, get engaged in cooking, gardening. Gardening is a huge therapeutic tool because in gardening you can just forget everything. But of course, if gardening is not for you, find what is for you. Perhaps music can be therapeutic. I find one area that is very therapeutic to me, what Jose was saying in his introduction of myself about the YouTube channel, Psychology with Michael Galea, and the feedback I get. I find that therapeutic. Find yours. Bloom where you are planted. Don't say because my significant other loves music, no, so I'm trying to copy it. No, baloney. Just be you. Just be you are special. You are unique. Just find your way. Express yourself. Now, whether it is outside, inside, I don't care. So far, it works. Practice meditation. And practicing meditation does not mean you have to enter into any church in particular. It doesn't mean that you have to be religious at all. Simply a way of being in the here and now. Number three, being physically active. Social distancing measures still allow us to go outside. So just be careful about contact with others. Go out for regular walks. Right now, we are in autumn. Is a great time for outdoors. And who knows, you can learn something. The internet, as you all know, is inundated with things that you can learn, whether it is a family workout, whether it is yoga. If you have time, use it productively. Now, let's look not just at the intrapersonal. We have seen the intrapersonal, how to cater about yourself in terms of routine, in terms of cognitive and physical exercise. Now let's look at the interpersonal, me and you, whoever the you may be. So 2 points are very relevant here. Social connectedness, especially with our loved ones. Let's not forget them. Let's not take them for granted. And number two, social integration, meaning there is a communal aspect. Why? Because no man, no woman is an island. Let's look at social connectedness. And I wish to devote a corner of my talk about the elderly. Check in daily on the aging adults in your life. This way they feel connected. Give them an extra call. Ask them if they need anything. When you ask them, how are you? And they say, oh, I'm okay. Be careful. Because behind that okay, if you had the time and make the time to unwrap it, there may be a heart broken, lonely, isolated, perhaps even suicidal. So never assume. So my mental wellness to-do list: plan practical things, stay connected, especially with significant others. And there are innumerable ways how to stay connected. Be creative. 3, talk about your worries. Yes, we do get worried. COVID worries everyone. Death worries everyone. It is okay to worry. That is normal. But don't keep it to yourself. Number 4, look after your body. We mentioned physical health. We mentioned cognitive health, mental health. Stay on top of difficult feelings. You are going to have feelings like anger, like depression. Don't close in on yourself. Try to bring it out. Otherwise, it will make more harm than good. Number 6, do not stay glued to the news. News is important. Of course, it's good to be selective. Not all news is good. We all know how much of internet is full of fake news as well today. So you need to be selective. But another thing, you need to get the news from the right sources, but also you need to do a time limit. There should be a time where news is off. Otherwise, the barrage of news will have an impact on our mental health. Number 7, carry on doing things you enjoy. And if you don't have a hobby, why not start one? Don't forget, we have just one life. If we had 2, then yes, you may relax in this one, but we have only one life. So might as well do the best you can. Number 8, which may seem opposite of 7, take time to relax. Take time to relax. Time for myself. I have a family, but at times I need time for me. Do you have time for you? Ask yourself today, the 18th of November 2020, have you allotted any 5 minutes, 10 minutes to yourself, to no one else? That's not selfishness. Charity begins at home, although it shouldn't end there, because then it will become selfishness, narcissism. But it begins at home. It begins with you. You cannot love another person unless first you love yourself. So take time to relax. 9, get good enough sleep. 3 last things that I wish to part with today. We all react differently to stressful events. Why? Because we are different. Our childhood, our resources are different. Those who respond more strongly to stress of a crisis include those with high risk for severe illness from COVID, children, people caring for the vulnerable, first responders, those who lost their jobs, people with disabilities, individuals who are socially isolated, those who misuse substances. It is an area, it is a corner, those who misuse substances, that we never get tired of mentioning. Why? Because the booze very often is used by humans for self-medication. Number two, it is okay to worry when faced with a crisis. But of course, when worry becomes excessive, that's not okay. That's when you need to seek help. Lastly, and please remember this, everybody has his or her breaking point. Don't say, oh, my brother has thick skin. I have seen twins. And one brother, you can call him any name under the sun, and it will be like business as usual. And his brother, if you had to tell him about his ear, children love to tease each other. Look at his ear because his ear is a little bit, out of shape or something. He will go home. He will become depressed. He won't sleep. He will worry excessively. These are twins. Meaning what? Meaning that we are different. We are unique. So don't say because my brother, no, it doesn't go like that. You have your own breaking point and I have mine. What is important is that you know how to read those signals when you are reaching your breaking point. Don't compete with yourself, because then you can end up burned out. You can bring the whole system with you, especially if you have dependence on you. So it's important to know yourself, to know your limitations, and to be humble enough to say, okay, on this area, on this article, on this paper, on this project I'm working on, enough today. I draw the line. I'll continue another time. But right now, sorry, I need some me time. That's fine. That's fine. Thank you very much. As Jose said, in the situation, I just published these two books. They are in Maltese as well, on mental health. One on Neish Haya Sabiha, which is short daily reflections on mental health. The other one is about the question of letting go, which I believe in our society we have a big problem with, not just our society, but in the West. Closures, terminations. Of course, you guys are working in this field of radiography, etc. And this is the channel that Jose was mentioning before. Thank you very much.